Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Last week featured a chaotic and dramatic race at the infamous VIR, and when the dust settled, we saw Sintes Galindo and Lescala falter in the points. Today, we roll into the final race of the season at Road Atlanta with both points championships riding in the balance. Will Lepisto's consistency deliver him the championship he seeks over Sintes Galindo? Will Del Olmo finally break the back of the dominant Lescala? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the final round of the iRacing Camel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lundgren, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road Atlanta has long been host to many a multi-class race, and to hear more about the pedigree of this legendary Southern American race course, let's take you down to our track guide.
Welcome to Road Atlanta, the scene of incredible sports car racing for decades and the home to the attention on a world stage. With it being situated only an hour northeast of Atlanta, Georgia, the circuit is in a prime location. But despite its flagship race, in contrast to the real Le Mans, the full course is 2.5 miles long. The club layouts also clock in at just under 2 miles. Packed within this small lap length is a series of technical and challenging corners, some of which can be race-ending even when small mistakes are made. Turn 1 is a fast sweeper which compresses the car into the track, but the high speeds mean that when you go off, you typically go off in a big way. Turn 3 is notorious for its curved entry into a blind apex. Too far inside and you face a cut course penalty. Too far outside and you're likely to spin out. Then there's the unassuming Turn 5, the wide curving learning opportunities, The main one comes at the chicane at the bottom of the backstretch. The huge downhill drop into the turn makes outbraking yourself quite easy though, so be careful. The whole thing wraps up with the frightening final corner. With nothing but a giant wall right to the outside as cars fly through at high speed, it's not often that wrecks are small. Boasting a wide swath and here on the iRacing service. Fans will no doubt get to enjoy many more years of action at this incredible track.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Camel, but we are going to go straight to the grid. We've got Alexis Tapiavico as the pole position starter next to Fabian Jungbluth, who's going to start off in second. Ardo Iamaki is going to start off in third with Aaron Humphrey in fourth. Antti Lapisto starting off in the fifth position with Martin Krejcik in sixth position. Row 4 goes to Laust Olsen and Javier Mascara in eighth. Seamus Power in ninth position with Xavier Sanchez in the 10th spot. Starting in 11th is Ove Trangere with Heitor Sentes Galindo alongside him in 12th. Antonio J. Vicens starts off on row 7 next to Brendan Tim Yonk in 17th. Cam Porter starts off 18th today with Augustin Alberte in 19th and Jason Clapper, the first of those who did not set a qualifying time, in 20th. Then we've got Salvador Salas, Jacob Leon, Alberto Garcia R, Jeffrey Furcon, Tim Phillips, Christian Arribas, and Brian Wren rounding out your 28 cars in the GTP field, Joey.
Yeah, over in GTO, a new face Buafia, not a new face to the class and series, though, taking pole position and commanding half a second over Ian Haycox, rounding out the top 5, Timothy Reed 6th, Marty Oli 7th, Andreas Schuster 8th, Hideki Kovisto 9th place, and Javier Sands rounding out the top 10, Matthias Platz, Jamie Hommel-Smith, Daniel Repetto, Emerson Gowden, Doug Cloud in 15th place, Yori Giesen, Tom Holland, Carlos Fonseca, and Javier, see a few more, Javier Delgado and Michael Haynes, all in the GTO field. Few issues on our end over here. Taking a look at the weather, it's a nice clean day here at Road Atlanta. 75-degree air temperature, 84 degrees on the track. We'll have to keep an eye on that, as if it gets any warmer right now, we're going to really see these cars slide around, and I know that we're working kind of with one hand tied behind our back. Lapisto is 10 points ahead of Galindo right now, and he's got to keep that track position if he wants to take home the championship, so we'll make sure to keep an eye on those points in GTP. Hopping over to the GTO stuff, Yuka Leskala has a 6-point lead over Javier Del Olmo, so another really, really close points battle that's coming down to the race checkered flag tonight. Can't wait to see who watches or wins coming home. And like we said in GTO, we've got a new pole sitter over there, so we'll really have to see that battle that Yuka Leskala has, dominated these types of races earlier this year, and see if he's able to take it to a Buafia out front, or if it really is going to be a battle between Leskala and that orange car of Del Olmo. Well, I know that this pace car right now is headed down the back straight. We've got the class separation between the two fields right now. Gonna go dive down through turns 10A, 10B, and once we crest up over the hill down into turn 12, we will be getting a green flag here on this Camel GT series at Road Atlanta. Can't wait for all of this action to be coming through on your screen here today, as it looks like the field is formed up 2 by 2 in the hands of our leader right now, and we've got a green flag on the racetrack. Pretty calm for the most part. Laust Olsen's going to try to take a 3 wide down into turn 1. Single file for the top 2 cars right now is between Jungbluth and Lapisto, sorting it out over turn 3 as we get the GTO green flag, and Buafia gets a great jump. Leskala takes a look down the inside, but they also managed to go single file through the sweeping turn 1. Del Olmo takes a look down Leskala going up into turn 3, but for the most part, both of these starts right now have been calm and collected from what I can see on the screen right now, as the GTP cars first go down the back straight. Really cool to see these cars go down the back straightaway here at Road Atlanta. They're going to be approaching speeds of over 175 miles an hour as the aerodynamics really suck them to the ground, braking here for turns 10A and 10B. Watching our leader right now, Alexis Vico, ahead of Ardo Iamaki, leads Fabian Jungbluth over Aaron Humphrey, and Antti Lapisto rounds out the current top 5 on the screen for GTP. We mentioned the points battle, and it really is between Lapisto there and also Galindo, but from what I see, Lepisto's got a commanding lead and a very good start to this race. Is right now, he's just kind of settled into 5th place, got a few cars ahead of him, but most importantly, track position is there to capitalize on that championship. I know that we also have a few cameras being involved in today's race. Laust Olsen is one of those. He's right there in 7th place, trying to hunt down that pack in front of him. Let everybody else know here. Looking back at this GTO battle, nothing has really changed that I can see on the screen. Yuka Leskola is actually starting to pull it out a little bit over Javier Del Olmo, and by a little bit, I only mean about 3/4 of a second right now. Buafia is kind of running the pace. Leskola following him with Del Olmo in 3rd. Timothy Vaughn in 4th, and Ian Haycox in 5th place GTO, but pretty calm for the most part between all of the classes right now, at least up front. Jumping back up to the GTP lead, looks like we do have a car coming down pit road. This is Tim Yonk. Must have had an issue out there on the racetrack. We see him coming down pit road. Either he got some damage, or I know that sometimes I always forget to put race fuel in the car, and I always end up out there on the qualifying setup, and it's kind of an embarrassing moment when I do that, and know that I've done that quite a few times here. Taking a look, this is the number 7 car on your screen. This is the GTP class lead. Watching really just all these GTP cars come down the back straightaway and calm for the most part. I'm waiting for this action to start. I think it's really going to start once we have the GTP GTO crossover. And getting a few things sorted over here on my end. And yeah, looks like we got Laust Olsen's going to be taking it down. Multiple 2 wide battles here going down the front straightaway. Laust Olsen battling out for what would be the 6th position. Currently holds 7th place right now, but applying a lot of pressure to Martin Krejcik up in that 6th place. We're going to see him poke a nose down the inside of the S's. It's not a place that you want to go too wide. I think Laust is just trying to find an over-under move, but he's got to be careful because directly behind him is Power here in this number 18 machine, and if Laust isn't careful, he's going to have a GTP car drafting up his backside. Coming out of turn 7 here, it's always a battle of putting the mechanical grip down onto the racetrack. And here we go, battling down the back straightaway as these cars are rocketing up over 170 miles an hour. I'm seeing on the screen right here, 175 miles an hour out of these cars down the back straightaway. And to put that into perspective, these cars were made, really in the 70s, raced in the 80s through the 90s, and pretty awesome visceral machines out here, as it looks like we are starting to finally get that GTP GTO crossover that we have been waiting for. And jumping up to our lead, battling GTO, this is our top 3. Vico, Iamaki, and Youngbluth right now. We're going to be riding on board with Fabian Youngbluth as he tries to stay in touch with our leaders. And for everybody watching right now, I think that this is the most exciting part of the race. This is when the GTP cars have such an immense amount of speed. We're going to see them, big wiggle out of turn 7 there out of Youngbluth trying to put the power down. But the crossover difference between these cars can be upwards of 30 miles an hour in some of these areas of the racetrack. And if a GTP car gets held up by a GTO car in the wrong spot, it can cost them over 3 seconds of lap time. As we see Youngbluth here really get separated, but look at this battle just a spot behind him on the racetrack. Now we're starting to see the chaos that is the Camel GT series. I'm starting to see cars go off left and right as these GTP cars start to dice their way and carve their way through the GTO traffic here at Road Atlanta, through this sweeping turn 1. Such a high speed corner, side by side into turn 3. They're going to have to work it out for this 10th position. Xavier Sanchez is just waiting back here in the buffet line to clean up the pieces. Thankfully, he's calm and collected down the S's, but they have a GTO car blocking them up here through turn 5. Who gets the better exit? Xavier Sanchez is literally underneath the wing of Mascara in front of him. He's going to take a late braking move down into turn 6. Aggressive. Doesn't get it done. Will tuck back in line, see if he can get the exit out of turn 7 and look at the back straightaway here at Road Atlanta. Depending on what country you're in or what part of America, this could be I-5, this could be I-90, this could be I-95. It just looks like rush hour out there at Road Atlanta, especially trying to sort it out going down here into turn 10A and 10B. These cars get all the way down to about 40 miles an hour from 170 as they all try to sort it out through the... And oh my goodness, I cannot believe what I'm seeing here on the racetrack. I've been involved in 75 car Spec Miata races, and this is some of the wildest and craziest racing I have ever seen here at Road Atlanta, especially on the screen. Look at this, coming up over turn 3, we've got GTO cars making way, GTP cars coming through the field, not a whole lot of contact, but once again, this is Mascara trying to work his way through, gonna hop back up to the lead right now. This is Vico hounding Ardo Iamaki, who's found himself out front, continuing to battle through this GTO traffic. They're gonna rocket down the back straightaway. Who gets the better draft from these blocky GTO cars? Right now, it looks like Ardo Iamaki does have about an arm's length distance over Alexis Vico right now, but heading down into turn 10A, 10B, he closes it up on the brakes. Who the better exit now is looking at the back of Laust Olsen, getting some pressure from Martin Krechik on your screen. Both of these are pretty regular names here in the Camel GT series, and I think one thing that we're going to see all day today here is the ebb and flow of this GTO traffic. We're seeing probably at its peak where it's the heaviest, it might get separated out a little bit, and something else I'm noticing is we're following along with Krechik, but right in front of him is Lepisto, just a couple cars in front of Laust Olsen. So Lepisto maybe not having the track position that he wants, but currently up to 4th place right now, still looking good in terms of the points championship. Also looking at that number 1 car on the screen as Lepisto dives underneath him. That's Yuka Leskala, our GTO points leader. He's actually still in touch with the GTO leader, race leader of Buafia. Can still get that, but look at this. They have separated themselves from Javier Del Olmo in this orange Audi. And it looks like right now, Javier and Yuka are still battling it out for the championship. It'll be really interesting to see what happens there. I know it's going to end up with the checkered flag falling, and looks like we got a problem here on the racetrack for the number 44 as well as the number 18. This is Seamus Power. This is a car that we just saw running inside the top 10, and it might cause a 3-wide moment going into turn 1. I see Javier Del Olmo really stuck out wide as these GTP cars are making their way through. I know that as a GTO car, when the back half of those GTP cars come up, it's always a guessing game on what move are they going to take and where are they going to place the car. And as it looks like we're going to jump back here, this is the number 8 car, Aitor Sintes Galindo. The reason why we're covering him here is he's actually going to move up a place as Xavier Sanchez went off there in turn 6, but keeps it on the racetrack in turn 7. We were covering Galindo because he's the GTP points championship leader, and it looks like we've got some pressure right now for the lead. That was a pass. That's Alexis Vico going by Ardo Iamaki. We'll have to get a replay of that because we just caught the tail end of it. Don't count out Fabian Jungbluth. He has caught himself up to this top 2 battle. We're not going to take the camera anywhere because this is a great battle between Alexis Vico, Ardo Iamaki, and Fabian Jungbluth, all for the top 3 positions on GTP on the racetrack. And looking at the racetrack right now in front of them, they actually have a little bit of clean air. So I'm curious to see, you know, there's a GTO car right in the way as I say that. But they have a little bit of clean air. As soon as they get by this GTO car, I'm curious to see what the lap times are going to be between our 3 front runners. Now this is a great battle here in P4 GTO. This is Timothy Vaughn, Timothy Reed battling it out side by side down the S's. The GTP cars are getting stacked up behind them. Not a whole lot of places to go. One thing that's really unique about Road Atlanta, it provides great multi-class racing, which we've seen with real-world events like Petit Le Mans, and it looks like one of the Timothys is going to try to capitalize on those GTP cars trying to get down the inside. GTO Audis have the benefit of all-wheel drive getting out of turn 7 there. This is Ian Haycock's a great story that we're riding on board with here. I know that he's also one of our camera cars tonight, and interesting thing about Ian is that he was actually involved in a motorcycle accident not too long ago and lost a limb, and he's out here battling it out with one foot out there, and look at him. He's currently trying to get into the top 6, into the top 5. He's in 6th position, but Ian is one of our regulars, and always great to see that bright green Audi racing its way towards the front. This is still Vaughn leading over Reed, over Haycox, as we get more of this GTP lap traffic coming through these slower GTO cars. The funnel is such a big part here at GTO and GTP traffic coming down through the S's. When you're a GTP car, you really have to pick and choose when you're going to get the launch around, and it looks like Aitor Sintes Galindo around in 10A, 10B, and he has officially taken the tow back to pit lane. We're going to take a look at this replay on what happened at the racetrack. This is Sintes Galindo in the white and blue car, the number 8 machine, riding on board to go hard on the brakes here, down into 10A. Ooh, and he just locks it up, the rear end on the brakes, and then gets collected from behind. Ultimately winds up off of the racetrack with heavy damage on the car and takes the tow back to pit road. But that is disaster for the championship. That is pretty much going to hand it to Antti Lepisto out there, and my goodness, what a championship turn. And getting back to the live action on the screen, this is the GTP battle for 2nd place between Fabian Youngbluth and Ardo Iamaki, and as it looks like we do have Michael de Turk joining us in the booth. Michael, how are you doing?
Good, Joey. Just got out of a race myself, so interesting to come over here and see these guys try to work their way through the GTOs as they're entering turn 3 here as we watch Fabian, I believe. But a shame about Aitor and kind of getting a little deep there into 10A, 10B.
Yes, no, Aitor definitely got in too deep, and it looked like he just outbraked himself and then ultimately got collected from behind. But to catch you up to speed here, Ardo Iamaki was leading this race for a while, but it was ultimately Vico who came in and made a good outbraking move into 10A and 10B, and he hasn't let him go. Ardo Iamaki has stayed in touch there, but one thing that I'm also noticing is that Fabian Youngbluth has officially gone back to the 4th position, which promotes Antti Lepisto now up into 3rd. Oh, we got a GTO car spinning around on the back straight. That's never good to see. Hopefully he stays off driver's right. He locks it down and will take that tow back to pit road. That could have been really bad.
Yeah, always a scary one when you end up with a spinner on the straightaway. We're going to watch the replay here. And we're going to see the 2 GTOs in tow here. Was there a little bit of contact? Oh, we're going 3 wide? Oh, yep, just a little bit of a touch. Just gets pushed off into the grass, and around it comes.
You called it, Michael. Just a little bit of a touch, and that put the car out on the left side, which ultimately in the grass, and couldn't save it from there. This is our GTO leader, Buafia, in the number 28 Audi. He has just been clicking off lap times like a boss out there. His fastest lap, 118.84. His last lap, 118.88. I don't think it gets really much more consistent than that, especially when you compare it to somebody like Jukka Leskala, who comes in and puts on a clinic every week. He's turning 119.2s back there, but finds himself now 2.5 seconds out of that battle for the lead. Looking at the battle for 8th place, this is between Platz, Gleason, Schuster, and Haycox all for GTO as they take it side by side into 10A and 10B. Who's going to sort it out? These Audis have tremendous traction coming out of the corners.
Yeah, he just held it around the outside there really nicely. I always love that attempt for a pass in a 10A, 10B, because whether you're attacking or defending, there's a bunch of different lines. It feels like that narrow chicane, but you can really get a nice over-under and then cross somebody over going down the bridge and force them to the outside as you come down through the final turn.
This is a really great battle here in GTO as we get these GTP cars. You see the speed difference, and Michael, you have a lot of time in these GTO cars. You can talk to me a little bit about what it's like to drive this all-wheel drive car, but then also have to watch your mirror on some of these closing rates because the GTP cars in certain areas are just so fast.
Actually, Joey, I have almost no experience with the GTO. I've driven it in a few test sessions, but I've never actually raced it. You know, doing a little hosted practice with some of the Camel guys, I can tell you that I understand why the GTO guys feel aggrieved by the GTPs occasionally, because it really is just a matter of trying to get that car turned in and get the power down. And you know, once you're on power in the GTO, you're driving all the way out, and it's difficult when a GTP just takes that line from you.
It can be, and that's the beauty of multi-class racing. We're jumping back right on board with Ardo Iamaki here in this orange GTP car. And look at this. This is a roadblock of GTO cars in front of him. Ardo's being incredibly patient here. I have to give a handout to Iamaki. Just, that was incredible sportsmanship to stay patient through that GTO traffic, especially when he's got the leader right in front of him, knowing that he's giving up a little bit of track time. And once again, very patient, taking a look down the inside of turn 7 and leaving room there on the exit. Great racing from Ardo Iamaki, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was good cooperation between the two, which, you know, as you've talked about, is really what you need in multi-class. You have to work together. That way you both don't lose time. Turn 7's always a scary one. You want to get the inside and get turned, but you don't want to have the, you know, other class car turned down on top of you. It's difficult whether you're on the inside or the outside, especially with how slippery that apex curve can be.
Definitely, and it looks like we're taking a look at the number 12 car. This is Matthias Platz, and oh no, Jungbluth is around, and that's coming out of the last corner. Michael, this isn't an area that we see unless it's side by side. Let's take a look at this replay here. We're riding on board with Fabian Jungbluth. Go through 10A, 10B, everything looks pretty normal here. I see a GTO car class up in front. Let's see what happens as they come around the last corner. Oh no! Fabian just gets out wide. It looks like a mistake all by himself. Puts his outside two in the dirty part of the racetrack, which ultimately ends up in the grass. That was a very odd setup for that last corner, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think he just got, as you said, a little bit wide there, and as the curb ended, he just barely touched the grass, and suddenly it was mowing the lawn instead of taking that nice sweep down onto the pit straight.
And let me tell you, that is a very fast final corner. That is going to be heavy damage on that Jungbluth machine, and highly doubt he's going to be able to survive any sort of lap time, and he'll probably just tow it back to pit lane. Looks like we got another fastest lap from, what do you know, our race leader, Alexis Vico, out front. Taking a look a little bit further back right now, this is a battle for 7th place. Xavier Sanchez going through turn 1. Yeah, just hunting it down. I love Road Atlanta, Michael. Every sim racer has a lot of laps at Road Atlanta. I'm a bit spoiled, and thankfully I've gotten to drive a lot of these racetracks in real life, and let me tell you, Road Atlanta is one of my favorites, and it's just so flowing. Once you get into a rhythm out here, you really get to capitalize on some of these runs, as we're going to see Sanchez try to take it down the inside. Too wide going into 6 on this action, takes it back to single file through turn 7. Got a little bit of an ADD moment, but the rhythm of Road Atlanta is just so much fun, Michael.
Yeah, it was a nice move there and a good setup to hopefully get a good run here down into 10A as we see them go side by side. Xavier's going to take the inside into 10A. So the question will be, will Martin break a little bit early and try to over-under him, or will he fight him the whole way down?
Looks like they're gonna give it up and go single file here through 10A, 10B. Pretty classic outbraking move there in the brake zone, but I don't know if you saw that. That was a GTP car, yeah, stopped on the racetrack there. That's Alberto Garcia getting up to speed. I think that maybe he just lost a shifter or something, you know, but he's back up to speed going out there. Sometimes it's like the Costco parking lot as we see another car off on driver's left there in turn 1. Looks like, oh no, that was Seamus Power. He still finds himself in the 10th place position, but this is the second time that he has been off track, Michael, as we get this replay.
Yeah, we're going to see Power head into turn 1 here behind one of the GTOs. I believe that's Haycock's. Oh, and he just grabs the brakes a little bit hard, touches the curb, and the car kicks around on him. I think he thought that Haycock's was just a little bit, he was just a little slower than he expected, and he tried to correct it, and it just snapped on him.
Yes, and something I want to draw the attention to, Antti Lepisto just got around Ardo Iamaki. Plain and simple on the back straightaway, nothing to cover. He just drove straight around that orange car. That's going to promote Lepisto up into that 2nd place position. We already covered Galindo having the incident, having to take the tow. So really all Lepisto's got to do is bring it home, and he will have that points championship wrapped up in GTP, but it always feels good to stand one step higher on that podium, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You know, I love finishing higher than someone in the points, but in that exact moment when I'm in a one-off race, my only goal is to finish as high as I possibly can. I'm not thinking about the championship. I'm thinking about a podium or a win and just trying to go as fast as I possibly can, sometimes to my own detriment.
I think that's what makes you a racer, Michael. You know, you're always trying to get out there, go faster, and be better. It's always about improving. It looks like jumping back to Laus Olsen through some others' misfortune, he's worked his way up to that 4th place, and then Aaron Humphrey here in this 24 machine finds himself inside the top 5. He has been hunting down Laus Olsen, and we'll see if he can actually close that gap a little bit more and hopefully battle it out for that 4th place. I know that when Laus starts to get that pressure involved, he starts to pucker up a little bit, but he's had a pretty gosh dang good race out there. I'm looking at the lap times from all of our GTP guys, really just 109s through the top 4. Is got our GTO leader back on the screen, Boafia in command. Michael, this was our pole sitter. He's led every single lap. Jukka Leskala got up close to him maybe in the first couple laps, but really it has been the story of this black Audi out front all day.
You know, I know these two have had some good fights as well as with Del Olmo throughout the season, but I don't think it can be understated enough to put a 3.4 second gap on Leskala is a superhuman performance. I know Boafia is a great driver. I know they've had some good fights, but you know, even take into account the multi-class traffic, a 3.4, as we're seeing 3.9 second gap now is really, really, really impressive.
It is impressive, and to set the picture for everybody, we're working about 15 minutes left here in this race, and coming down to a few points battles, we're looking at the battle for 7th place on screen between Giesen and Platz. Giesen's actually going to get the run down the inside, going to look down into turn 1, also have GTP cars going 3 wide. Looks like he will complete that pass, and it's also going to open up the door for some more GTO and GTP cars to ultimately get through, but look at this. No contact made. Everybody is still racing out there. It's kind of the name of the game with Camel. It's just, where do you pick the traffic? Where do you meet it? And where do you get by cleanly, as there's always action on the racetrack. This is Jason Clapper hunting down Brendan Lim for this 11th place. And to talk about points briefly, I know that we have so much action. Jukka Leskala, with that 2nd place over Javier Del Olmo, still leads that championship. So right now, it's definitely looking like Lepisto and Leskala currently for your points champions, if nothing changes.
It's always nice when you feel like you control your own fate. You know, to have the spot in front of your competition and be able to say, look, I can drive my race, and if they catch me, then we'll race. But if they don't catch me, as we see them going, who is this, going side by side down in 10A, 10B?
Yeah, this is Clapper and Brendan Lim. Clapper makes that pass.
Yeah, it was pretty textbook there. Nice draft, and then just outbreak him into the corner and get by and go.
Oh no, this is Aaron Humphrey. Finds himself around it, really the exit of turn 3, turn 4, coming down into the S's. This was a car that was hunting down Laust Olsen for 4th place. Get a check of this replay. Here's Laust right in front of him, battling it out here in turn 1. Get a little bit of a GTO car in the way. Laust still here. We're going to see what happens. Up over the curb, it can upset the car, and that's certainly what happened. Just the curbs and the bounce upset the car, but thankfully no contact with the tire wall. Looks like the 24 will fall down to 6th place, lose a couple of positions, only 1 position, but stay out on the racetrack.
Yeah, just sometimes that curb at turn 3 in a variety of cars, but especially the GTP, can get that kind of pogo stick effect as you go over it. It's one of those weird ones where if you take too little, you're slow, and if you take a middle line, it'll pogo, and if you take too much, you might go fast or get an off track. So he was great there to get on the brakes and recognize that it was coming around and keep it out of the wall.
Yeah, looks like we're going to ride on board. This is Arto Iamaki. Remember, Antti Lepisto got by Arto earlier in this race, but just due to... Oh no, Jukka Leskola, this is huge points championship implications. Jukka Leskola, heavy damage going into turn 6. I wonder what happened. This had to have been a multi-class incident.
Yeah, I think the other GTP there just was letting the other ones through, and Leskola just kind of drove into the back of him through no fault of his own. But the GTP moves over. We see him stand on the brakes. Oh, that's terrible. That's rough.
Yeah, you know, I can't blame Leskola for anything right there, and this has huge points championship implications. The only thing that Leskola can possibly do is just hang on with that damage out there. He had built about a 10-plus second lead over Del Olmo. It looks like he still has about 5 seconds, but Michael, we're working 11 and a half minutes left in this race. Let's keep an eye on the lap time difference here between Jukka Leskola and Javier Del Olmo and see what that damage has caused on that Audi.
You know, thankfully for Leskola, the hit was pretty square on the GTP, and then it was pretty square on the wall. So the front end of that car doesn't look terribly bent. I haven't jumped on board to see if he has any steering damage. Oh, as we see some GTP spin behind him.
That was Seamus Power having the race, a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure race. He's up into 9th, but this is the 3rd time we've seen him have damage, and looks like heavy smoke out of the back of that Power machine, and let's see what happened here. Ultimately spins it in turn 5, gets collected, and then look at this, heavy smoke out of it, and damage. I think he blew up the motor with a misshift right there. Look at that red line and smoke out the back.
And the GTP just stealing that inside line to get around him. It's a good thing that iRacing doesn't simulate oil slicks on the track, because that would have been really terrifying going into 6th there.
Yes, it would be, and it looks like he's trying to limp this car back down to pit road, and this is Jukka Leskola right now trying to catch Jukka's last lap time out there. It looks like he is back up to speed. Maybe he's still a little bit off pace, but he only had that 1 lap there, Michael, where he was the 7 seconds off. That was the big damage incident with that GTP car.
Yeah, we saw one of the GTPs working around him there in turn 1, and I always find turn 1 in this track, despite how straightforward it seems, to be one of the more difficult turns in multi-class to deal with. You say, I can take the apex away and swing around the outside, but then you're on the inside for 3, or you can do the dangerous move and try to set them up and swing around the outside. But then as they work back for 2 and try to get set up for 3, you're on their left. It's kind of a real roll of the dice through turn 1 when you're working through multi-class.
Yeah, roll of the dice indeed. And you kind of mentioned it. I look at kind of the dance moves, and Leskola down here, down the back straightaway, looking at the top speed, see about 165 miles an hour, and then we'll jump back to Javier Del Olmo just a few seconds back, see what Javier's at, and actually a little bit slower out of Javier Del Olmo. That might be due to a wing setting, but that shows me that it looks like Jukka Leskola's car is doing just fine out there.
Yeah, certainly got a little bit lucky with that contact with the GTO and then the tire barrier to not be down top speed.
Yeah, it looks like Doug Cloud, a bit of an incident here in the number 26 Audi. maybe get a replay of what's going on here up over turn 3. Heavy jump over the curbs. Looks like there's already GTP cars in front of him. Quite a bit of a traffic jam. Let's see what happens here. He's going to take a look down to the inside. Just such an ebb and flow, deciding when those GTP cars are going to come through. And then ultimately, looks like he got hit pretty hard in the left rear from what I would assume is a GTP car.
Yeah, that just speared off. Oh, it was another GTO that just tapped him on the outside there.
Looked like that was Timothy Reed going side by side, and that was this wheel-to-wheel contact that ultimately sent that car. And this is the 9th place car, number 25, Marty Ollie, off in turn 3 with heavy front-end damage as we see more GTP cars try to work their way through, and not only heavy front-end damage, but looks like heavy engine damage on that number 25 machine once again. Michael, we're going to get a replay of this one.
Yeah, we see him working up through turn 1. There's a GTP kind of inside of him. Oh, and they just make contact through 2, and it just puts him right into the wall. That's rough. You know, he tried to leave the space there, but it's a tough place to pass, and it's a tough place also to leave space when you're trying to get that set up with the way the GTO kind of understeers and get it turned in for 3 there.
Yeah, and once again, it goes back to this multi-class racing and why Road Atlanta is such a fascinating place. There's areas that you can go 2 wide, 3 wide to make passing, and then there's also major funnels on this racetrack where it really only is single lane racing. But one thing has stayed common, especially here in the last half of this race. Our leader, Alexis Vico, out there just laying down lap times. I'm looking at his last lap, 109.1 compared to a 109.5 out of the second place runner, Antti Lepisto. Not only does he have the track position, but he's got the speed as well.
Yeah, it's Road Atlanta is one of those ones where suddenly you can lose 2 or 3 seconds by catching traffic in the wrong places. But it seems like Vico's really managed the traffic well and kind of gotten through the S's without getting held up too many times.
Jumping back to the 7th place car in GTO, this is Andreas Schuster. He is slow on the racetrack. I'm not sure what has happened here with this car, but I know that they are going through some shifts, and some of these guys are using H-pattern shifters, and if you don't get that shift right, you can definitely cause engine damage. And another battle that we've been covering all day that hasn't gone anywhere, that is starting to come down to an end, Michael, because we're less than 6 minutes left, is this battle for second place between Antti Lepisto and Arto Iamaki.
Yeah, Joey, as you said, they've really been going at it for a number of laps here. We saw Lepisto get past Iamaki a few laps ago. And now it's going to be a matter for Iamaki of just staying in that draft and making sure you're in a position to fight here in the final 5-6 laps of this race.
Absolutely. And one thing that I always say is that you save your best racing for the end, you know, and Camel, it can be a little bit tough because you got all of these cars and traffic dodging everywhere, but ultimately you only get scored once you cross the finish line. And so you want to save your best moves and your best racing and your most respectful racing for these closing minutes here. And hopefully we see that out of Iamaki and Lepisto, as it looks like we've got another spin on the racetrack. That was Antonio Vissens there in the number 38 machine coming down the S's.
Yeah, we're going to see him going into turn 1 with Ove behind him. Gets a little bit of extra curb there into 1 and gets a little hop off the apex. I wonder if that's what we're going to see here. He hops the turn 3 curb nicely. He's already got a pretty substantial amount of damage on the left side there. As he turns in, and it's just already rotating as he gets turned down into the S's. A fairly light hit to the wall, but adding to a fairly significant amount of damage already on that car.
And I think, I believe, yeah, that was Ove Trengrid taken to the grass there behind him, trying to get around, as it looks like Laust Olsen right now battling it out for Xavier Sanchez. This is Xavier Sanchez. He must have got around Olsen, and this is also Jukka Leskala caught up in the middle of this. Not sure when that pass for 4th happened, because Laust Olsen was in that 4th place position, but now he's got the draft closing up on the back of Xavier Sanchez. We're going to have to take a look at the rest of this battle here as we're working less than 4 minutes remaining, and this is probably the closest one we got on the racetrack.
Yeah, Laust had a really nice toe there. I wonder if he's maybe winged down one level from Sanchez, but he's really sitting in his draft nicely and seems to be able to close up on him. We'll have to see through turn 1 and the S's here up through 5 if he stays just as close and gets another nice run down the back straight, or if maybe he gets a little extra curve there. I guess he's not going to stay right on him, but we'll see him come through 5 here and see if he can hang on and stay in the draft and really get a good chance to attack.
It's such a dance with these GTP cars. I mentioned it, they have the big wings, and so when they go through the high-speed sections, they really are glued down to the ground, but the slower areas of the racetrack, like turn 3, turn 7, turn 10A and 10B, it's actually very difficult for these faster GTP cars because they're very stiffly sprung. It's almost like they're on stilts out there, and they need that high-speed aero to really suck them down to the racetrack as Lepisto just barely gets by this GTO traffic. We were covering this battle for second place on the screen, and all of a sudden a huge stack up out of 10B, and I gotta say Lepisto just narrowly missed that one.
I don't know how he got through that without just ripping the whole left front of the car off. Wow.
Wow is right, and luckily enough, Ardo Iamaki got through there as well. They both got to check their underpants after that one here at the checkered flag, but the battle rages on, coming up out of turn 5, looking them bouncing up all over those curbs right now. Ardo Iamaki hounding the back of Antti Lepisto, and this is also Alexis Vico. This is the battle for the lead, all top 3 GTP cars on one screen in front of you going down the back straightaway, Michael.
Yeah, how exciting. They've got a lapped car in front of them who's hopefully going to let all 3 through together, but I might have jinxed Tapia Vico a little bit there, saying that the traffic management through the S's had been really nice because just a couple of laps of checkups and having to wait for people, and suddenly we've turned a 1 car leading and running away into a 3-car fight for the lead here with 2-ish laps to go.
Yeah, we will have 2 laps to go. These cars are doing about a minute 8, minute 9 seconds, and jumping back, this is Fabian Jungbluth and Cam Porter battling it out for the 15th position. Fabian Jungbluth had a fantastic run going earlier, but had that incident in 10A, which ultimately put heavy damage on the car. And nothing has changed up front. It's still a battle between these 3 GTP cars making their way through turn 5. Coming up to the most crucial part on this racetrack, Michael, turn 7. You got to get the power down, and in these GTP cars, it can be really tricky, especially if you jump that entry or exit curve.
Yeah, both of them are so slippery, and even trying to maximize your entry into 7 with the entry curve on the left side there, it's really easy to outbrake yourself, and suddenly you're washing past the apex curve, and then you're trying to put the power down on the exit curve, and all you get is wheel spin.
Yeah, Ardo Iamaki going to take a look down the inside, but we got GTO cars here in 10A, 10B. What's that going to do for Lepisto's battle? Oh no, Lepisto gets wicked loose out of 10B. That's going to give Ardo Iamaki the position. He's going to go up into second, but ultimately Lepisto is able to hang on to that car, which is crucial for his points championship. Huge save out of that Antti Lepisto, and we got 1 lap to go. This is our leader, Alexis Tapia Vico, out there in the number 11 machine. He has stretched out that gap now. Comfortable lead over second place, and this is your GTO leader coming to take the white flag. Boafia also in a commanding lead. Yuka Leskala still about 7.5 seconds in front of Javier Del Olmo out there, so the points championships, as long as everybody keeps it clean out there, are all but settled. Laust Olsen still hounding the back of Xavier Sanchez. This is coming out of turn 7, out onto the back straightaway for the last time. He's going to try to get tucked up into the draft. Michael, look at this. Sanchez is dodging every way, trying to break the draft, but jumping up to our leader through turn at 10A, 10B, up over the crest and down the hill. Alexis Tapia Vico claims the win here at Road Atlanta.
A well-fought victory. As we see Laust trying to get a move done on Xavier coming through 10 and 10B there, but unfortunately he's going to have to tuck back in behind him, and the line is just too close for him to get that position.
I'm not sure what happened to Ardo Iamaki. We're going to be covering Brendan Lim here in 11th place. It's going to be the battle 10th, 11th, and now here is our GTO leader, Boafia coming through 10A, 10B. He's just got to keep it together. Got a damaged GTP car, but guess what? Plenty of a gap back to Leskala. Just cruise it over that start-finish line. The win goes to that number 28 machine.
Really, really impressive performance as we see Leskala coming through 10B and making his way back under the bridge. And I believe this will be the championship win for Yuko Leskala.
I believe it will be as he cruises across the line in second place. I'm sure that he will be doing his famous drifting afterwards. Look at this huge Scandinavian flick into turn one. You gotta love it. And the rest of these cars are going to be winding down. We are going to take a quick commercial break and be right back with our finishing results. What a race here at Road Atlanta for the Camel GT series that ultimately ended the points championship here on this series. Taking a look at our finishing results, it was domination day from the number 11 car, Alexis Tapio Vico, out there in the GTP class. Comes home with a 4.5 second victory over Antti Lepisto, but we saw it was not that close in the final laps. It was just really the last lap there. Antti Lepisto, your championship runner there in second place, and Ardo Iamaki in third, rounding out the podium. Xavier Sanchez holds on to the fourth place over Laust Olsen in fifth. Aaron Humphrey in sixth, Martin Krajcek seventh, Jason Clapper eighth, Ove Trengrade ninth, Stefan Leslie there in 11th place. Also had Brendan Lim Stefan Leslie in 10th place, Brendan Lim in 11th, Javier Mosquera 12th, Jorge Suarez 13th, Antonio Vicens, Fabian Jungbluth with quite an adventure here today ends in 15th. Cam Porter, Tim Young, Christian Arribas, Austin Alberi, Salvador Salas, and Tim Phillips also in that GTP field. Seamus Power ultimately hit the reset button a few more laps down. Kurt Clapper, Alberto Garcia, Aitor Sintes Galindo. Very, very tough race for a championship contender, ultimately way down there, 25 laps down. Jeffrey Furcon, Jacob Leon, and Brian Wren round out all of the GTP cars.
As we take a look at the GTO results here, we see Boafia with the dominating win, 17 seconds over Leskla. Although Leskla's race wasn't without issues, we saw there was some contact with the GTP that was slowing down, and then ultimately some contact with the wall from there. After that, we have Javier Del Olmo, 23 seconds behind in third place, followed by a nice finish from Timothy Vaughn. I know he's been driving the GTOs a bunch this season, and it couldn't be more different from what I'm used to seeing him in some of the higher downforce open wheel machinery. So a fourth place finish from him in GTO is quite nicely done. After that, lap down, we see Emerson Godin, followed by Andreas Schuster, Matthias Platz, and that wonderful Yokohama livery GTO. Eighth place is Carlos Fonseca, followed by Ian Haycox, who took some early damage, and Tom Holland in 10th, 2 laps down.
Yeah, they're in 11th place. Also have Michael Haynes, then followed up with Timothy Reed, Javier Delgado, Marty Ole, Yori Giesen, Daniel Repetto, Doug Cloud, we also saw had that damage earlier in the race. Javier Sanz, Jamie Hummelsmith, and Hideki Kovisto ultimately with those problems very early in the race did not finish. And I know that before we get into our interviews, I want to talk about our points because we did settle our points championship between GTP and GTO, and it will be Andy Lepisto out there taking home that GTP championship win. Congratulations to Andy Lepisto in that number 2 machine. One heck of a season out of him. And then also in GTO, Jukka Leskala will also claim that dominating championship win. Came home second place today, just like Lepisto, but takes home the big trophy with the championship in GTO here in the Camel GT series. And with those 2 announcements, it looks like we will have a few interviews here. And we're going to start with Laust Olsen as our first. Laus, welcome to the booth up here. You had an adventurous race. I saw you all the way up to maybe third place for a little bit, but ultimately it was the battle for fourth between Xavier Sanchez and yourself. Take us through those final few laps. Laust, do we have you? Looks like we're having just a couple microphone issues here with Laust. We're going to jump on over to Aitor Sintes Galindo because I know that he was involved in this race earlier. Hopefully Laust can get his microphone figured out. Now, we're going to jump Aitor into the booth right now. Aitor, I know that it was not the race that you were looking for. You need to really crawl back on those points to help take the championship fight to Lepisto. What happened down there in 10A and 10B?
Well, basically, usually when I race the Nissan, most people use the blip to downshift, and I don't, because I trust myself in not using it, because most of the time it works, but this time it didn't, because probably didn't rev match correctly the gears, and basically spun out the rear tires, and I spun out. This is the kind of mistake I didn't want to do, honestly. Obviously not happy with the result, but it's okay. These things happen, and of course, a huge congratulations to Antti, the champion, a hugely deserved champion for this season. And yeah, hopefully next season will be better.
Well, Aitor, I know it's not the way you wanted to end the championship, but you had plenty of highs throughout this season here. And Talk to me about some of those. What were some of your favorite moments this season here racing the GTP car?
Probably is the results themselves, the consistency, because this I usually have the season with some kind of consistency and having, I don't know, top 5, top 5, top 5, top 3, podium finishes and everything, and in the end I end up with a championship battle, because this is how it ended these seasons. So I would put the fact that I'm actually, for someone who in Long Beach last season, after clinching the title, said, I am not going to fight for the championship, because I did say that, but still was fighting anyway, because on Okayama it was like, oh, I'm 2 points behind Antti, I should try to fight for it. In the end I didn't, but I would put this on I don't know, the fact that I still think I'm 3-2. I think it's a good result despite this horrible finale, but still. It's now a clean sheet for tomorrow in 2 weeks, and let's see how it goes, basically.
Well, that was going to lead me into the next question here for you, Aitor. I know that you want to stand on the top step of the points championship, no matter if you get sucked into it or if you choose to get there. Are we going to see you next season here in the GTP cars?
Absolutely. No doubt about it, because Camel, basically I run just Camel because I love the series so much. This basically everything else is waiting, you know, that like that old saying, Camel is life, everything else is waiting. but yeah it's I love this series. I will obviously do a full season again, try for the best results, hopefully a win, because I had a winless season this one, but yeah, hopefully a good season.
Well, that was our second place championship points finisher. Unfortunately, 25th place here in the race today. Aitor Sintez Galindo. It sounds like he is in great spirits. And Aitor, before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to say thank you to or give a shout out to that helped you throughout this entire process and season?
Just as usual, you guys for the streaming, my family, friends, and watching, my teammate Ferran for the setups and the device. And obviously, like, I'm a community. Certainly, I treat them like as a family. And yeah, thanks everybody, and see you in 2 weeks at the Nordschleife.
Definitely, we'll see you at the Nordschleife. That was Aitor Sintez Galindo. Like I said, not the finish he wanted, but second place in the points championship. And it looks like Laust Olsen does have his microphone working, and Michael de Turk is standing by with him.
Laust, can you hear me?
Yeah, still no good. Cannot hear you. Sorry.
Well, sorry about that. I think we'll move on to Cam Porter then. Cam, welcome to the booth. You'll have to forgive me. I missed the start of the race for you guys today, but looks like you had an interesting race, if nothing else. Can you talk us through a little bit of what happened for you?
Looks like we are just a bit outside, if you know that reference, that movie reference here today. Michael, it's just kind of just swing and miss right now. Cam, you with us?
It's a day of technical difficulties, Joey.
Doesn't look like Cam is going to be with us. That will round out all of the podiums. Michael, I just want to get your final thoughts really fast here, because this is the final race of the Camel GT series. What a season, and I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching these guys fight all season long. It's always some interesting races between both classes. And, you had the full end of the spectrum. You had chaos races with a ton of wrecks. You had really close finishes up and down the field. I think Camel always brings something entertaining to the table.
It always brings excitement to the table, especially when you're backing so many of these cars on such small racetracks. And that will do it for today's broadcast. Thank you to the many members of the Vice Classic Racing Championship for bringing us another season of coverage on the iRacing Camel GT series. Also, thanks to everyone who were a part of the GSRC team covering this Camel season. Joe Peak, Craig King, Michael DeTurk, Adam Lindgren on the mic, Zach Johnson, Ryan Bauer, Robert O'Brien on the chair, and of course, Dougie Beard's ever amazing cameras. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. We'll be back next season, starting with the Nordschleife. Saturday, December 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern is when that broadcast will be in. Make sure to check out all of the other broadcasts listed here on the GSRC channel. We hope you've enjoyed watching us this season of Camel as much as we've enjoyed bringing you this racing action. We hope to see you here again soon, but until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.